Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Saturday Night Club, the Saturday night edition of LFC Transfer Room. I'm joined by Colin tonight. How are you, Colin? All right? Are you pulling double duty today? Were you on the post match as well?
I was. I didn't get a chance to be on my Star Stripes and Anfield Nights on Tuesday, so I figured I'd throw myself on twice.
Making up the time. I like it. Well
Yeah.
done. It's good dedication that I can only do one a week. So two in a day, really good. Welcome everybody as well. Thank you so much for giving up your Saturday night, and thank you for joining us once again on FC Transfer Room. Please do make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. Have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. It does really help the channel grow. Speaking of which, we hit 10,000 subscribers the other day, which is phenomenal. Thank you so much to everyone, and thank you so much for your support as well. Let's get to it then. I mean, obviously we've had the post-match stream. We will touch on the Burnley game. I think that there are talking points that have come out since, not to mention that Trent Alexander injury that we will obviously get to and talk about. But the news in the past couple of hours really has been that Sporting's coach Amorim has a release clause at £25 million. Barcelona want him. I mean, thoughts on that, Colin? We're obviously in the hunt for a new manager. We're all looking for, what we can do, who we can bring in. Are you at all concerned, that this up and comer might come into Barcelona rather than Liverpool?
I really like him. I think he plays a great brand. I love a really young, enthusiastic manager. I think he would be an outstanding signing for Barcelona. I think the Premier League's level, I think, can do some weird things to to managers, to coaches, that I just think other leagues just don't get those managers just don't get subjected to it quite in the same way. Um, Obviously, Barcelona has their internal pressures and their expectations of what they would need their manager to be doing. I think he certainly would be a really good hire for them. They need something a little bit fresher, a little bit more, like rejuvenating almost. I think than just picking one of their other previous academy graduates. So um, I think he could really do a job for them that would be uh, it's something that they really need. I don't think that Liverpool would hire him. I think we all know who Liverpool are really interested in. I think that they're going to close that deal and pretty much do anything that they need to in order to do such. But an exciting manager. I think he's going to do great.
You touched upon and was a little bit aloof with that chosen manager that Liverpool is. I'm just going to put something that Helior very kindly put into the chat that might give you a little bit of a hint. Bayern Leverkusen has beaten Bayern Munich 3-0, which is phenomenal. Like that, Bayern Munich are an absolute giant of German football, and I think if you actually look back on the past few years, I'd say decade actually, if I'm honest, before Klopp's Dortmund came along, and even during as well. Bayern Munich are the absolute giants of German football, and everybody who is in the Bundesliga wants to play for Bayern Munich, and why wouldn't you? They just breed success. What Xabi Alonso is doing there at Bayern Leverkusen is absolutely phenomenal. Let's not forget, this is a team that were really struggling a couple of years ago. And now to be beating the likes of Bayern Munich and to be top of Bundesliga, it's absolutely phenomenal. And Paul says he's seen enough. Xabi Alonso is him. Just announce it already. I think the only drawback is obviously announcing it too soon, perhaps, and then we forget about Klopp. I think the timing has to be absolutely bang on, but we don't want to wait too long. We don't want to, and I don't think he would, but we don't want the Chelseas of the world, or even perhaps. Even though Madrid absolutely smashed Girona, didn't they, today? So Ancelotti's job looks safe. Yeah. I think he would only go to a Madrid or a Liverpool, if I'm honest, because he does feel like he's a project manager. Xabi Alonso is perhaps the one. And that the strategy, as Helior says, is an absolute masterclass.
Yeah, I had the game on. They look a professional side, and I don't mean that as like they're professional footballers. Like obviously they are. That they look like they look in control. They look calm. They look like they know exactly what they need and want to do in order to accomplish, the goal of either winning the game or the goal of, reaching cup finals, winning the Bundesliga. Like they look absolutely assured in everything that they do. Um, they're really impressive. They're really, really impressive. And to be honest with you, I don't think that they're a team that is just loaded with, you know, loaded with people who are going to get massive, giant contracts elsewhere. Like I think that there are players in that team that will, but I'm trying to think back to like um, so the Ajax team that made it to the Champions League semifinal against Tottenham, like, and how that team was almost immediately broken up and just sold for its individual parts. And it seemed like everybody on that team was getting a massive move. I don't think that is this team. This is that Leverkusen team. I think that they are, a really well put together, incredibly well coached unit that knows how to go about their business in order to achieve the goals that they want. And that to me is the biggest and most important selling point for Xabi as Liverpool's next managers. They look an absolute perfect image of what he wants them to be. Um, and they work in the way that he would want them to. So they're really impressive. That win was really good. Yeah, can't say enough about them, I think.
Yeah, and Paul says, "What do you feel about switching to a back three?" And that's quite a good question, really. We actually saw a little bit of that today with Curtis Jones, I think, playing in that wing back position. We did perhaps see a little bit of a back three where players dropped into that midfield. From the midfield position, obviously came back as well. I don't think that. I think we've got some really good centre backs at the club. We've got obviously Virgil, Ibu, Quanta. If Matip stays as well, you've got Gomez who could play in the centre back role. Plus, we all want another centre back anyway. So even if we do play a back three, I suppose it does give Trent a little bit of license and Robbo a bit of license as well. It's just, we have been invested in midfield. So the likes of a Jones or a McAllister or a Zabozlai or an Endo or a Gravenberg or an Elliott, who was phenomenal, by the way, when he came on today. One of those, two of those, three of those are going to have to miss out as well. So can you see that back three system?
So I'm interested to see what you might think about this, Richie. I'm not convinced that is absolutely what he would do. Um, I think really the best managers, and what the best managers in the world are able to do is to see kind of what they have, to have a really clear understanding of how they want the group to function, and maybe most importantly, a really specific idea of how they think that the talent that they have inside of the group can best exploit the weaknesses of the majority of the league. Um, I think this system works absolutely perfectly for the Bundesliga, which is a, a lot more open. I feel like defensively, you're going to get. I see a lot less teams that are happy to kind of throw a lot of men behind the ball and just kind of sit there all day, in comparison to some lower sides in the Premier League who are going to be really drilled at, just sitting behind the ball and not really have an interest in much pressing, especially in what would be Liverpool's defensive third. Um, I think in that case, it almost is a waste to play three pure center backs, because you're missing. I feel like you miss someone up the field. Now, I think again, I think one of the best things about Xavi is that, like, from everything that I've seen and read and seen in interviews, like, he's incredibly intelligent. Um, and he can find his whatever system I think works best for, the talent that Liverpool will have if he comes in, and what he thinks would best be able to exploit Premier League defenses. So I don't think it's, necessarily is absolutely going to be a, 3-4-3, 3-4-1-2, whatever he's, currently playing, but can look more, Klopp only played 4-2-3-1 when he was at Dortmund, pretty much, and started that way, here in Liverpool, but has developed a new idea for what his team could be playing like. And it's a lot more dynamic than just saying it's only 4-2-3-1. It's only 3-4-3, whatever. So I wouldn't expect us to strictly just immediately move to a back three. I don't necessarily know that our personnel fits it. If that's something that he would want to work towards, then I think you can kind of get the players to be more dynamic in their positioning and work towards it. But I don't necessarily think that a cold switch from playing what looks like a lot of times a 4-3-3 currently, and then just switching immediately to 3-4-3. I'm not convinced that, great managers would do that unless they're convinced that they have, the personnel to do it in the way that they would want to.
I think the most important thing is that, Xabi would be given time. I think if he goes to a Chelsea, goes to Manchester United, well, actually saying that Man United might give him time, but I don't think a Chelsea certainly wouldn't. I think Real Madrid are pretty ruthless as well when it comes to managers. I think that Xabi will be afforded time, and that's essentially what he needs, to get his system and to get the way in which he wants his team playing. Something that will really, I always worry about FSG, not in the terms like that most people worry about FSG. I worry that, they might think, well, Nagelsmann has a pretty good CV. We know that he's going to be available soon on a free. Xabi is somewhat unproven, I would say. But what they will love is that 12.6 million euros net spend, because FSG love a net spend. And I think if anyone, can bring the best out of Liverpool and the best out of FSG net spend, it will be Xabi Alonso. I think if you go to a Nagelsmann who is used to spending money, perhaps, or you go to other managers who we are linked with, I think that Xabi does a really good job, and I think that Xabi would do an amazing job in terms of building a project and, more importantly, being given the time to build that project. We're joined by Alan, who's just put his kids to bed. I know the absolute frustration with putting kids to bed. So very well done, and also thank you very much for joining us.
No worries, it's a pleasure to join you as always, guys. I've obviously heard you guys talk about the Leverkusen game and a bit of Xabi, but I didn't get to watch a lot of the Leverkusen game. I was kind of in and out, seeing little bits of it. Obviously now Xabi's being heavily linked with Liverpool. I am trying to watch as much of Leverkusen as I can to see how they play, and they do play a really nice, attractive football, which, as obviously I hear you guys saying about Xabi needing a bit of time, obviously it will take a little bit of time to kind of get someone and get used to his way of playing, whether it be a formation change, but just a different style of play. A lot of these players, especially the younger ones, I've only actually known Jurgen Klopp. They've known no one else. So they need to kind of learn a new way potentially of playing, which could take a bit of time. So I think it's very important that Xabi is, if he's the guy who comes in, is given plenty of time. But I think he will do. I know I heard a few people on radios and obviously in other podcast type things saying about his lack of experience and is it a gamble to take him. But I kind of think the other way, really. It's a gamble not to take him. Because if we don't take him and he goes to Madrid or to Bayern Munich and he rips it up, where they're going to sit there and think, why didn't we get him when we had the chance? So I think, Xabi Alonso is my number one choice.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's everybody's favourite choice actually in terms of that. There are other obviously people linked as well, and I'm sure that over the weeks we'll be exploring the likes of Thomas Frank and Thomas Franks and a De Zerbi, you know, maybe even a Nagelsmann as well. But I'm sure we'll get onto that. Let's talk Trent Alexander-Arnold then, because he today very much overtook Andy Robertson by one. He has 57 assists in the Premier League, which is the most of any defender of all time in the Premier League era. Because remember, football did only start in 1992, guys. So in the Premier League era, Trent Alexander-Arnold has just overtaken Andy Robertson with his assist today. However, the drawback is that it was reported as a precautionary injury on commentary when he was withdrawn at half time. But since then, Klopp said it doesn't look good. I mean, Colin, he's only just come back from injury. I think if Bradley was perhaps available, and, you know, I still wish him all the very best and send my best, and as I'm sure you all do, his condolences to his family. But I do generally think that Trent wouldn't have been playing as much as what he was. I think it was perhaps, you know, with Gomez especially getting flu, Robbo could have started on that left. How big of a blow is that if Trent is out for a while, especially with the cup final around the corner and a double game week next week?
Yeah, it's not good. Not good. I was saying in our post match from earlier that I don't think that a 7-day break between games could come at a better time than for us right now. We looked like we were getting really, really healthy, and then all of a sudden we look like we're not so healthy all of a sudden between the flu and between a couple of pickups. Honestly could not ask for a better timing for 7 days in between games. You know, if Trent's going to be out, then hopefully whatever he's done is not too bad, and we can get him back in a month. I don't have any apprehensions about playing Bradley during that time. Obviously, from the form that he's been in when he's been able to play. Now, of course, huge emotional, like family tragedies like that, you don't necessarily know, how or if they're going to affect someone like that. You see in, I can think of a couple examples in American sports where, people have had like family tragedies, and they will come on like shortly after that has happened and just play lights out. They play like they are possessed. They put in performances that you couldn't dream of. And sometimes it takes longer to kind of be right again. And so, whatever the case is, I'm hoping that Connor Bradley's doing okay. To lose someone like that at such a young age is like really, really a tough beat. And I'm just hoping that, whatever situations we're going to be putting him in, that, we're kind of conscious of that going forward. So, whatever, if Trent's injured, I think we have good options. Luckily, we're healthy at left back at a great time. Joe Gomez can just switch from covering on one side to switch to covering on another. And he's been great. So hopefully, we can get over this flu that we've picked up, and just in time for, I think, a run of games that is full of opportunity to strike at. And I certainly expect that we will.
What are your thoughts, Alan, about Trent? Do you think that he's just a little bit of a niggle? Do you think that he actually deserves a longer break? I mean, now's really not the time in the final third of the season for him to be taking a break, but do you think that's what he perhaps needs?
I think, as Colin said then, if, as I said, like yourselves, all the condolences to the Connor Bradley family. If obviously what happened to Connor hadn't happened, I really don't think Trent would have played the last couple of games. I think his injury was one of the ones where, from the things you read about it, wasn't as much of an injury, because when you hyperextend your leg, although you might feel okay, it does take that little bit of time to kind of get it back. And I feel, obviously, last week against Arsenal, he didn't play the full 90. I'm not too sure how long he lasted. About 55 minutes, something like that, maybe. And he looked out of sorts last week against Arsenal. Now he's not looking out of sorts for someone like, say, a Haaland or De Bruyne who's been gone for months. He literally was missing for 3 weeks. So his fitness level wouldn't have gone that much. It is just the fact his body is not up. And I felt he was just unfortunate that he had to play against Arsenal. And he's had to play again against today. As Colin said, flu couldn't have come at the worst time, because I genuinely believe if Gomez had been fit, as in like not ill, he'd have played the right back today, and Trent would have been on the bench, brought on if needed. And that would have probably rolled on, and you might have seen him getting half an hour's and 40 minutes here and there, maybe, with the aim to try and get into the cup final. Now, obviously, we need to wait and see what the diagnosis is. I know Klopp said obviously it doesn't look good. So we need to see how long doesn't look good actually means. You're probably thinking he's not going to play the double game week next week. Then you're going to throw a Trent in a 50% in against Chelsea. It's cup final, I probably wouldn't. So again, you want him. I would want to hopefully Bradley back, obviously in good form again. Gomez if need be. If Robertson stays fit, I think we'd be covered, and just keep Trent and only bring him back when he's 100% ready. Because there's no point having him coming back for the game, missing 5. We don't want that at all. The season's now getting to the business end. We need him to be playing. Simple as that.
Do you think Trent, Colin, will go down as not just the Premier League's best fullback of all time, but be in the same conversation as the likes of Cafu and Roberto Carlos? Do you think that that's the ceiling really for Trent?
It is the ceiling for sure. So much about getting to that level is about longevity. It's not just doing it as the Chelsea fans, I think, are well aware. It's not just doing it in 1 or 2 games and then being injured for 4 years straight. If you can't do it consistently over time, it doesn't matter. So hopefully this is not an indication of a longer future of some injury concerns for him. I mean, I think the pure game load that he has played probably over the past 3 years, 4 years doesn't bode super well for that. But I was just reading through some of these, some of the quotes from Jurgen. Same area in the knee, nothing really bad, but felt it again. We'll have to see to assess it. So it's, if he can stay long-term healthy, that is his level. That his ability to influence the game from right back is something that I actually said this on the earlier stream as well. As someone who played like right back, my whole life, I couldn't even fathom influencing the game in this way. And that is his level. Like it's a defining level of quality at a position where you don't normally see it. And it's the kind of thing where 20 years from now, if you look at what, maybe a right back or a left back can be, you'll be able to trace it back to his performances over the past 5 years. So the short answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, Alan, is who else could speak in that same conversation, really, in the Premier League era? Lots of people say Gary Neville, who was a brilliant fullback. Obviously, he was in a lot better, over his career. Klopp's built some amazing Liverpool teams, but Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United team, is perhaps still the best team in the Premier League era. So, all of his accomplishments, he played with a better team. You could say Kyle Walker, who also played in a wonderful Manchester City team as well, abundant by riches around him. Is there anyone else in the Premier League who comes close to Trent Alexander-Arnold?
It depends, obviously, what we're comparing two things, really. If we're comparing things that they won, then obviously there'll be no comparison, unfortunately. I wish it was, but I don't think it will be. In terms of ability, again, I've never seen many midfielders, never mind fullbacks, strike the ball like Trent does, pick out a pass like Trent does. But I generally do believe that I think if you go in a couple of years' time, we won't talk about him as a fullback. I think he'll be playing midfield. I really am that impressed with Conor Bradley. I think any manager that comes in, Xabi or anyone, will want to use a guy in midfield with that range of passing. You can dictate the game. Now, although we can dictate the game from right back, I would rather than be in the middle potentially now, dictating the game. In terms of right backs in the history of the Premier League, I don't think anyone is like Trent. Trent's unique. He's a generational talent. You don't see. I've only probably seen 2 players pass the ball as good as him. One Steve Gerrard and one Xabi Alonso in the time I've been watching Liverpool. As a fullback, now there's no one like him beforehand, because who else can do what he does as a fullback? No one strikes the ball like that. No one crosses the ball like that. He crosses the ball like David Beckham does. And David Beckham's an unbelievable crosser of the ball. But he's a fullback, not a right winger. So, no, I don't think anyone's like him. I think Neville, great fullback as he was, but he was a tenacious fullback, old school style. Kyle Walker is a great fullback. But I think his greatness comes from the fact he's very, very fast. If he hasn't got the speed, I don't think he's as amazing as everyone makes out. But he has got the speed, so he is great. But no, I'd say Trent is unique, different talent. No one like him beforehand.
Yeah, and I think, he's a hybrid. He's always been a hybrid.
Yes.
He's never just a defender like I think Gary Neville and Kyle Walker are. When you look at right backs, I think Cafu was perhaps a one of a kind because he could do both what Trent does. But I think actually now Trent moving into that midfield, he's almost like a Cafu hybrid, who was already a hybrid anyway, being an attack and defence, on that right-hand side, especially for Brazil. But actually coming into that midfield position too, you could say that he has those attributes that a Xabi Alonso, no pun intended there. I know that we're talking about Alonso, but, that vision that Alonso has as well. And for me, I think,
in world football, the only player I can really think of, obviously, Cafu, obviously the great shout. I thought the right back who used to play for Barcelona, Danny Alves. He's probably the only one I would think was like that. Not in terms of with the ball and spraying the ball, but in terms of he had a big impact on that Barcelona team. The way Trent has on this time, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think isn't Danny Alves the most decorated football player to grace the earth?
Let's hope Trent gets that,
eh? Oh yeah. Maybe not playing for Liverpool, so let's hope he doesn't.
Yes, okay.
So moving on then to our front four, they all scored today. Some really good goals actually, and all 3. Do you know what they were?
Headers.
They were. All 3 were headers. Yeah. I think that's one of the. I cannot remember the last time, especially in a Liverpool match, but the last time in the Premier League where all 3 goals have come from headers. Yeah. Brilliant stuff in the air. How does Mo Salah get back in this team? And that sounds a ridiculous question because Mo Salah has been the absolute weapon that Liverpool Football Club have had, in the Klopp era, and it's silly to think that he's not going to get back in, but I think he's going to earn his way back in. He's going to have to, because for me, Diaz has really found his form again on that right-hand side, and he's scoring goals and he's causing absolute chaos. And that is the side that obviously Salah plays. Now, you could say we can switch Diaz out to the left-hand side, but Jota and Nunez have both been absolutely phenomenal as well. I think Jota is perhaps our most potent forward, if I'm being completely honest, in that Liverpool team. And I think last week showed us what happens if you don't start Nunez. There is no chaos. There is no front man who can hold up the ball or run at defenders or create that space that Nunez does. So I don't think it's a God-given right that Mohamed Salah gets straight back in, Colin, because we have got a double game week. I think he'll be eased back in, and obviously he will, when he is fit, go straight back in. But who on earth are you going to drop?
I mean, it's a really difficult choice. I think if it weren't for the injury, regardless of what happens, what happens with Egypt at AFCON, if he doesn't get injured, I think he does walk right back in. If everything else is the same and just no injury, I think he just gets thrown right back in, regardless of everybody else's form, which is not necessarily something I would, maybe the decision I would make, but I think that's probably what happens. If it was up to me, if it's up to me, I probably would go for Jota only because I think he's so hard to deal with off the bench. Once the defense is already tired, and he is so lethal with his scoring touch, like he just will find the net and he will find the goal. I think that becomes so impossible to defend against if you have been trying to run with Nunez, Diaz, and Salah for 60, 70 minutes. You try to run with all them, and then you throw Jota on. I think that becomes so difficult to play against. So I would say that, but again, that's with some nuance there. I don't necessarily think that that's just like straight off form. If it was only form, I think I would probably go for Diaz, but I don't know.
Which is funny because Nunez actually hasn't scored in quite a while, in terms of where, comparing to Diaz and Jota. So if you were looking for goals, you'd probably drop Nunez out of the three. But I just think what he gives and listen, Nunez also creates goals too. It's not just about his goal output. He could have had a couple today. I know he got one already, but I think he was really tired in that 95th minute. What a beautiful touch. Honestly, one of the best. Had that been a Phil Foden or a Kevin De Bruyne, the world would have been absolutely on fire, and Twitter would have been on fire and showing replays and putting Titanic music over the top of that touchdown, because that take was phenomenal. It was absolutely brilliant. But I think that touch, maybe he was tired legs and just ended up toe poking it. But had that goal have actually gone in, we're talking about one of the best goals that Nunez has scored, and he scored some absolute screamers. Alan, who is making way for Mohamed Salah?
Oof, that's a really tough question. I was saying to the lad who I was sitting next to at the match, we all thought, well, I did anyway, that this would probably be Salah's last season. Obviously, didn't know Klopp was going at the same time. So having not had Salah for about 4 or 5 matches, however many it's been, and we still look quite potent and look quite really good up front, kind of shows you that there will be life after Salah, which a couple of seasons ago you would never thought because of how well he was playing. With that said, though, when he's fully fit, he will walk back in the team. And he just will. Hugh comes off. I think Colin makes a couple of great points. I think Jota's always looked amazing off the bench. He's one of those guys, if Jota's on the bench, you'd put a little bet on him to score anytime, because you know at some point he's going to come on. Because I think when we have the full squad available, Jurgen does tend to like to throw on the attacking subs quite early, because with Nunez, Diaz, Jota, or Salah, whoever's played, the defenders are a little bit run ragged. And it's like, oh God, look who's now coming on. And I think the one thing with Jota, a fresh Jota, he's just lethal.
Yeah.
One chance, that's what they call him, Slaughter the Jota. It was Jota the Slaughter. So, begrudgingly, I probably would say Jota, but I don't think it would be a set every game. Jota's on the bench. I think it will be Salah starts, probably with Nunez, and then it would be between Diaz, Gakpo as well, to be fair, and Jota as who's the other one. But they will all come on. They'll all get 25, 30 minutes every game. So they would be quite fresh. And as Jurgen said, they'd have a lot of rhythm in. So no matter who then plays the following game, they've got it in the legs. But yeah, Salah, I think, definitely starts. I think if he goes to train this week, I think he'll probably play a little bit of Brentford, probably play most of Luton with Chelsea in mind for the week after.
Yeah, and it's a really good point that you made. I couldn't even see a life without Salah at the start of this season. Bearing in mind he's been out for a while now in the obviously African Cup of Nations, Haaland only just overtook him today, in terms of goals. I know Haaland's been out as well, but that's how good those two players are.
Yeah.
That just really shows. Everyone talks about Watkins and, the likes of, not Man United attackers because they're all absolute garbage. But the likes of, the Arsenal front three, Martinelli, Saka, Jesus,
Yeah.
the fact that they've been playing all season and Salah and Haaland have not been, and they're still the lead in front too. I know Son's pretty close up there and he's been away too. It just shows how good they are, but there is life, like you said. Salah can now, who was absolutely indispensable for me before the African Cup of Nations, because we haven't got anyone else who can play on the right hand side. I think Luis Diaz has absolutely shown he can play on that right hand side. I think that he's been brilliant and he's been a breath of fresh air on that right hand side as well. It looked like, it's Salah or Elliott. Who'd you pick? But actually, I think Diaz is well and truly elbowed his way into that conversation, and quite rightly so. It will be interesting over this next couple of game weeks as well, and I do think that Salah should start for the cup final. He is the man for the big games, and Jota is lethal off the bench. We found out last week, actually, Matty Orm told us that his nickname is Ghost. Diogo Jota, his nickname is Ghost because he doesn't do anything and he moves through the game like a ghost, but then as soon as there's a chance to score, he'll slot. And that's why they call him the Ghost. He'll do nothing all game. You don't know he's there. And then bang, he'll just score 2 or 3 straight on the off. So there's his nickname. The Ghost. Right. Let's very quickly then talk about this double game week then, because hopefully this flu virus, we have got another week yet, and flu, hopefully if it's not too bad, doesn't last any longer than 5 to 7 days. So we might see the likes of Alisson Becker back and Joe Gomez back and, hopefully Mohamed Salah. It doesn't look like Szoboszlai is going to be back, which is a huge, huge blow. But I thought Elliott was fantastic on that right-hand side today. I thought him and Andy Robertson, for me, man of the match. I mean, Colin, I don't know what you guys discussed post-match. If I'm honest, I was too busy watching England beat Wales in the rugby, which, apart from Liverpool beating Man United or Man City or Everton, England beating Wales is pretty up there as well, if I'm honest. So I didn't catch your guys' stream. But what did you guys think about Harvey Elliott? Can he do a job on that right-hand side in the absence of Szoboszlai? Because for me, I'm not too sure whether the McAllister, Jones and Endo midfield worked as well as what it should, especially not in that first half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had Harvey as my man of the match. He was so... Everything was fast. Everything was done really fast. He was really direct when he needed to be. He was really, he was so involved. He was all over the pitch. He was all over the ball. I thought he's been kind of to the Jota point. I think he's so good off the bench. If you only take his bench substitutions, throughout the year, those ratings have to be at or around 8s, all of them. I think he's been so good. And inversely, I don't think he's been as good when he starts. I don't know if it's an issue working into the game or trying to establish himself. I'm not sure what it was, but and the way we felt about, I guess, the team kind of in general was that I didn't think there was anybody who was really particularly poor on the day. I also didn't think that there was anybody who was truly outstanding. I thought it was very professional. I thought it was very we're not playing our best today. Burnley are playing quite well for them, for their standard. And we just need to find a way to win. And that's what we did. And I can appreciate that sometimes even more than just, coasting to a 3 or 4-0 win when the team you're playing is really not on it. And you're just flying. So I like a professional win. I thought Harvey was great. The Szoboszlai injury is concerning as well. His injury history, not incredibly extensive, but when it hits, it seems like it hits somewhat severely. And just hoping that it's again, hoping this 7 days off between now and the next game. And, the Brentford game is much more difficult, I think, of a fixture than Luton at home. It should be much easier. So hopefully that allows some real mixing and matching of who's available, who's not sick, who can use a couple minutes to get back up to speed. It's a really interesting time, I think, to look at the squad and how it's kind of piecing together at the moment.
I think the Brentford game is going to be extremely tricky, as you said. They got Ivan Toney back, as we all know. He scored today. A really good 2-0 win away at Wolves. Brentford are a very good team, and I do really rate, Frank's, actually, if I'm honest. It's not just because we're linked with him, but I do think he's done a phenomenal job there. Without even Toney and without Brian Mbeumo as well, actually. They have done well this season to cope with those. Without those two, the likes of Jensen and Janol, Norgard, I think they're all really good workhorses. That does suit Liverpool's play because they're workhorses too. I just feel that could potentially be a banana skin. So I do agree there. Alan, so when we do obviously play Brentford, hopefully Alisson's back and hopefully Gomez is back, and maybe even we might see a cameo from the Egyptian king Mohamed Salah. We do have 7 days rest. What is it, if you could speak to Jurgen Klopp, what is it that you would say your takeaway from the past couple of weeks? What would it say? Listen, Jurgen, mate, I know that you're the boss and you're the gaffer, but this is what I think you should work on. What would your recommendation be?
Imagine telling Jurgen Klopp what to do. Well, to be honest with you, we haven't done a lot wrong. I've really liked how we played, and our game management, I think, has been really, really good. In terms of obviously to try and improve on the last 2 games, obviously Arsenal, we were obviously very poor, and sometimes you have those days where you're not quite at it, and unfortunately, we play against a good team, you can get punished. I felt today, obviously, I've not seen the post-match because obviously I wasn't back in time to see it. But to me, they did look just a little. You could tell probably a lot of them maybe had a bit of a cold, a bit fluey and lethargic and a bit tired. So in terms of things to try and work on, I think it is just a case of just keep doing what you're doing, boys. I think Brentford will be tough because I think Brentford are a big unit of a team. They're very set piece heavy. So I think we've got to be really switched on. You'd really want Alisson to play because I think although Kelleher's an okay keeper, he made a couple of good saves, although I've not seen the highlights back. So I don't know whether, they were straight at him or they were good saves.
A couple, sorry, I was just going to say a couple were straight at him, but I think you've got to be in that position to be there.
100%. 100%.
And I think there was certainly nothing he could do about the goal. I think if he had go gadget arms, that goal was always going in. It was a great finish. I thought Kelleher did really well today. I put in our group chat twice Kelleher with a clapping emoji. I thought Kelleher did very well today.
Yeah, I said because I know that's the only one downside about when he plays. He looks very, very slight in compared to Alisson. So I think a team like Brentford would literally just surround him and just hit the ball high in the sky, and you would need Virgil and Kwanzaa to be really good on the air, which I thought they were today. I know they scored a set piece, but that can happen. It's a good delivery. Sometimes nothing you can do about it. So in terms of what would I tell you, Klopp, just keep doing what we're doing. Keep them fired up. Keep them just being honest, really, and working hard for each other. I don't think I genuinely just believe we are a really, really good team, and I think in game management between the players, you can see they try and work things out. So I think Brentford is going to be a tough game, banana skin, as you say. But I would like to see us go down there and have a go at them because that's what City did. I know City went behind, but they came back and won. I think we can go down there and go to try and score early and just try and beat them.
I think Liverpool have to go and do that because I think if we play like we did that first half today, Brentford would probably be 2-0 up at half time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Right, we are winding down now. please do get your final questions in that you would like to ask Colin, Alan, or myself. I'm just going to go back over to the chats, over to the comments, and see what has been asked. So do ask us anything that you like, literally anything. I don't really mind. Anything. It could be about Liverpool or life or anything in general. We'll do our best to answer them, but we are going to wind down in the next 5 minutes. But Paul says, I wonder if Xabi will have his head turned by Bayern. They might fire Tuchel. Now, that's a really good shout. I think the fact that they're still in the Champions League, I don't think they'll be doing that anytime soon. But if they go out of the Champions League early and think, actually, Xabi's our man to lead us forwards, they could very well do that. Colin, do you think Xabi would turn his head to a Bayern Munich? He doesn't have any... I don't know. Obviously, he has the affiliation of playing there, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being biased towards Liverpool and Madrid. It just feels like, I don't know. He was more of their player.
Yeah, I would hope that in this case, if we've already made contact with his representatives, that if Bayern were to come in later, he would say something to the effect of, hey, like I've already been talking with them, like I'm kind of decided on going to do that. I really hate I really don't like in the Bundesliga that everybody just kind of funnels all their talent, whether it be coaching or players. Like in so many cases, it just funnels to Bayern Munich. It is
that's
very
the system,
much,
isn't it? That's the Bundesliga system. It's like everything in the Bundesliga is scripted and directed to go right. Go to Bayern. If you're a great manager, go to Bayern. If you're in the Bundesliga, if you're a great player, go to Bayern because that's who we want to win everything, and that's who we're going to put all of our eggs in one basket with.
Yeah. And it really reminds me of in baseball. It's like it's the Yankees or the Dodgers. And everything. All the best players get funneled to those teams. It's very frustrating. I would certainly hope not. And I think if we as an organization are making it really clear to him, like, hey, like you're our preference. Here's what we can offer. Here's what the plan is. Like, we want you to do this. Then that will, that'll take care of itself. Because I, like you, see him more as I would be much more afraid if it was Real Madrid than if it was.
Yeah, me too.
Bayern Munich.
Yeah, me too. I think if Ancelotti got the bullet, which I don't think he will, unless they bow out early in the Champions League and they go disastrous in La Liga, I can't really see that happening. And plus the fact Ancelotti's got a lot of credit in the bank. He's one of the best managers of all time. So hopefully they wouldn't. But yeah, Madrid would be the one that scares me more so than Bayern. And I think that the fact that Xabi's worked in that Bundesliga sees actually Bayern are pretty ruthless when it comes to chopping their managers. If he has one bad season or even 6 months, his head's on the chopping block. That's him. That's done. And he's gone. And he's having to build his reputation up again. I don't think he would have that with Liverpool. Liverpool would give him a season, 2 seasons, even 3 seasons if there's progress there. They're not expecting immediate impact right away. Alan, one for you then. Is Harvey Elliott the best super sub at LFC since Origi and David Fairclough?
Since Origi, he left 3 seasons ago. So probably since Origi, yes. I loved Origi. I really did. Every time we played and, you're in a game, we just need a goal. Just stick on Big Diff and he'll sort it. And most of the times he did. I think the season Elliott's been really good off the bench. I think with Elliott, he's an incredibly intelligent footballer in the sense that, obviously I've never played professional football to the point where I'm standing on the sidelines and watching. But it seems from when he comes onto the pitch, it's like he's kind of, while he's been in the stand, sometimes you see a manager go into the stands and watch the game from a higher view to understand, okay, I see what's going on here. We're having issues here, there, or whatever. And obviously have time or whatever to try and fix it. It feels to me a lot of the time, Elliott seems to he sees parts within the game. What could he do when he comes on? And obviously he's not going to tell us because obviously he's probably not even thinking he's thinking it. He just is. And then when he comes on, he just then seems to make an impact on the actual match itself. And I think that's down to football intelligence. Technically, he's obviously a very good player, but I think he is quite a quite astute football person in the sense that he sees where he could potentially hurt other teams. see. I don't know. It's like sometimes you see. You can say, well, I see that fullback. Maybe he's always coming inside, so I'll go around him, or I'll drop a little bit deeper between the centre half and the fullback, and just try and draw players out to create space for, say, a Salah or a Trent if he's playing. So I think his intelligence is what makes him a really good fullback and a good super sub. But I do sometimes think when he starts, he finds it a little hard because maybe the game is a bit not too quick for him, but he's not trying to analyse the game while he's on it is a little more harder than when he's sitting there for 40 minutes to an hour. He was right, I know what I need to do here when I come on. So yeah, I think he's a great super sub, but I still have big div.
I always think that Elliot tries too hard, if that makes sense. Like the first 10 minutes, the first 10, 20 minutes, if he starts, he's electric. And he's all over the shop. He's like a Jack Russell. He's just everywhere, like here, there, and everywhere. And you just think, oh my God, he's going to do so well. And then he loses his way a little bit, you know, when the game starts to settle down. I think with that absolute chaos, he's brilliant. But I really like that point. Like he from the sidelines, I think it's the same as Jota. We always say that Jota is a great super sub. And we all love him coming off the bench. But Jota has now evolved his game into actually being a starter. And I think that's where Elliot needs to take the next step. You know, I think that Jota was brilliant from coming on because he could exploit the defences and he could exploit the tiredness. He doesn't need to do that now. He'll score whatever. And I think Elliot, again, bearing in mind this is such a young kid because he is, and he's playing for his absolute dream of a football club, that every time he walks out, there's passion in there. You know, I couldn't envision ever playing for Liverpool because I'd just be caught up in the moment all the time and I just wouldn't know what to do. I'd be trying so hard to impress. But Elliot off the bench at the minute does exactly what you said. He reads the game. He knows to exploit the spaces. He knows where to go, whether that's from the coaching staff or whether that's just from his vision. You know, I think that it's a bit of a conundrum, really, because as soon as Elliot kicks on, he'll be one of the best English midfielders. I think certainly he's played for Liverpool, and obviously you've got Gerrard involved in that. But I think he should really be looking for the World Cup spot, if I'm completely honest, in the next one. Very quickly then, a couple of last ones. I think this is a really, really good question, actually, from Paul. Which German 20-year-old is the better player, Wirtz or Musiala? I'm going to ask both of you this so you can both have a bit of thinking time. I don't think he means just for Liverpool, maybe perhaps in general, but you can take it how it is. It's an open-ended question. Colin, your thoughts, Wirtz, Musiala?
This is really a tricky question. This is like comes down to like, you know, what have you done overall versus what have you done lately? I think I'll take Musiala. But I'm trying to decide whether or not I think that because I've probably seen more of Bayern Munich play over the course of the last 3 years. I'll say Musiala.
Alan?
Pretty much the same, really. I think they're both great players and most importantly, great potential talent. And I think their ceiling's a lot higher than what they're even currently showing. But I've just probably seen more than Musiala. So I would probably say him. But, you know, I could easily be wrong in a couple of years' time. But I would go Musiala purely because I've seen them more.
I think, the player who probably fits Liverpool the best is a Wirtz, especially with Alonso. But I think Musiala is just absolutely sensational. Every time he gets on the ball, you know, I watched the Champions League as we all do, and I do like to keep an eye on Bayern Munich. And every time he gets the ball, he's just electric, you know, and he's just got the flair and he's got the style, and he could have played for England. So for all of those English fans out there, he could have played for England. Alas, hey ho, there we go. Right, thank you all so much for joining us. Any last words, Colin?
I hope everybody enjoys their Super Bowl experience tomorrow.
What's that?
Don't ask Steven. I'm honestly a little worried for Steven. I'm worried about how nervous he's going to be. I also don't think that the 49ers are going to win.
So I'm not an American football fan, if I'm honest. I'd love to be, but I just don't have the time to do it. So who's in the Super Bowl?
So it is the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
And do you support one of those?
No, I'm a Steelers fan.
Is that Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
See, I knew that.
So the 49ers have one less Super Bowl than the Steelers do. So I can't root for the 49ers to become, have the same amount. So Chiefs.
Okay. And who in LFC Transfer Room supports one of those two?
Steven is a big 49ers fan. I don't know anybody else who is like definitely a Chiefs fan, but Steven's a big 49ers fan. I'm a little worried about how nervous he's going to be.
Paul, to answer your question, what is rugby? Rugby basically is sort of like American football, but far less complicated and actually far more physical, because the rugby lads, like, we don't have to wear pads. We just get hit, right? We don't have to wear pads. We're not little wimps. We don't have to wear pads. We just take it like men. So that's what rugby is. So, Alan, any last thoughts?
No. Just for the exciting couple of weeks ahead. Build up to the cup final. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful in the ballot, so I'm not going, which is unfortunate. But that's life.
Listen, there's touts selling them for about $2,000. You got a spare $2,000 because all of these Liverpool fans,
my wife
they're the
will be
Liverpool
pleased.
fans.
Yeah,
all these Liverpool fans saying the Liverpool fans are happy to sell them for $2,000. So
no. But I'm looking forward to obviously some games. Looking forward to obviously getting through, and the City game is just sitting there nicely in a few weeks' time. And I kind of want to be at Anfield now, waiting for it. But hey, I'll wait. I'm looking forward to it. I just keep the wins going, and then let that game be what it is, and hopefully we'll come out on top. I think that'll probably be the most hostile league game I'll have been to in a long, long time.
And also, because it is a few weeks away, hopefully we will have the likes of Trent and Szoboszlai back as well, and Salah will be back up to full fitness too.
Yes.
I cannot believe that's going to be a cauldron. I can't wait, especially if it is how it is the league. As long as we don't slip too much, and City don't start running away with it, City won't know what's hit them. Jurgen Klopp's last game against City, most likely, unless obviously the FA Cup works out how it is, certainly the last game at Anfield, that's going to be one hell of a barnstormer.
60,000.
Yeah,
60,000 at Anfield.
And do you know what? Like, I'm actually in Liverpool that weekend because I have a conference with work, and I'm a speaker there. But I don't. Sorry, I'm watching some of the speakers there. But I don't want it to be an early kickoff. I really want the atmosphere to build and to build and to build, and I want it to be a decent kickoff time, 5:30 on a Saturday or 4:30 on a Sunday. I just can't see it happening.
Is it?
It's 3:45 on a Saturday.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. They've changed it. Yeah. No, sorry, you're right. I have seen that, and they've changed to that weird kickoff time, haven't they?
Yeah, 3:45. Because obviously they're worried about crowd trouble, so they moved it 45 minutes earlier. Don't quite know what that's going to do, but hey ho.
Mate, and also, City they don't have any fans at home. Do you think they're going to bring any to Anfield?
Well, I think there's all the stuff with obviously like the coaches and stuff like that. I think it will be quite hostile. It won't. I can't really think of a league game. None really come to mind that I've been to, and I've been to a lot, where it'll have, as I say, if the teams both keep winning. It's funny because I was saying to the lad at the match today, if we beat Southampton, that would then mean the Everton game gets cancelled or postponed, rearranged. And there's only 2 possible midweeks it could go into, depending obviously how well Liverpool do in the Europa League or whatever. So it's looking likely Liverpool go far in that. It will go the Wednesday or Tuesday before the Wolves game, last game of the season. Now I said to my friend, wouldn't it have been pretty awesome if it had been City the final week of the season and all the marbles are at stake? Then that would have been like Barcelona, Chelsea 05. It would have matched that sort of atmosphere. So, but yeah, let's just get the wins in the bag, and then whatever happens will happen. It's going to be tough because City are an unbelievable team, but so we can have them.
And they've got their players back. Haaland and De Bruyne, we're linking up today. And it was just like, oh man, I know it's only against Everton, but still, they do look like they're going to be firing all cylinders as well. So it should be an absolute belter.
Yeah,
if I'm honest, it should be an
I look
absolute
forward
belter. Yeah. So when's the kickoff time? 3:45.
3:45 on the Sunday.
On a Sunday.
I think it's the 10th. I might be wrong. 10th of March. I don't know what date it is. But whatever date it is, that Sunday, it's 3:45.
Good. Okay. Well, listen, thank you all for joining us. We are just going over an hour just now. So thank you so much for joining us, considering we didn't really have much of an agenda. We was just talking Liverpool. And that's the best thing about this channel is, all of you guys are just contributing in the chat. And I've been joined by Colin and Alan. Alan, first time you and I have ever collaborated together.
Yes,
so thank you very much for
that.
Yeah. No hopefully we'll
try and get on
do many
time
more in the
next
future.
time. Yes.
Oh no, you weren't even due, so you filled in absolutely brilliantly. So I normally do a quiz, as Colin would tell you. I just didn't feel like it was appropriate today. With
Saturday
stream. And also,
I don't do well.
Okay. Oh well, maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time. It was just the fact, like I said, Liverpool, Burnley, and then a case of England, Wales as well straight after.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for everyone for joining us and spending your Saturday night with us. And as for now and always, up the Reds.